Hello, everyone, and welcome to Where is Telesto, the show where we find Telesto and we look at Telesto. Today, you can find Telesto on Nessus. He's over here near the Watcher's grave, hanging out on a tree branch. So let's go and look at Telesto. All right, so once you touch down on Nessus, go ahead and hop on your Sparrow and go straight ahead. You'll see a tree up there, and you can see some people's usernames over there. That's where we're headed, where we will find Telesto. And here he is. This is Telesto. Let's go ahead and look at his Telesto. Here it is. This is Telesto. It's a fusion rifle. It's the best gun in the game. It does everything. It'll make your KD improve by 600%. In Crucible, and in PvE, it will auto-clear any encounter that you find because it's Telesto. And it's the besto. Moving right along, there's other exotics that you should care about, not as much as Telesto. There's Knucklehead Radar, which is a decent exotic. However, the roll this week is not great. Just too low stat, although I do like that it's spiky in resilience, but unfortunately, too low stat to be qualified, really. Khepri's Horn, also a exotic I'm fond of. This one is 64, which is probably the minimum I would want for an exotic. Really, I want over 65, but the main problem with this roll, aside from the fact that it's not as high as you'd want it to be, is that it doesn't really have any spikiness, which means that it's limited in its use because I like to look for spiky stats that allow me to kind of toggle off and on so that I can raise my stats and do specific things. And this is sort of just kind of well balanced, so not super exciting. Starfire Protocol, much more exciting. 67 is great. It's very good for an exotic, and it's also got very, very high spikiness, 26. Starfire Protocol, not an exotic I use a whole lot on my Warlock, but with this roll, certainly there's probably a use case, and even if there isn't right now, there might be in the future, so go ahead and grab it. Moving on to legendary weapons. This week, we got a roll of Survivor's Epitaph that I am not a huge fan of. Quick Draw is great. Osmosis is not. The GN7 rifle, firmly planted. I actually kind of like that perk on pulse rifles, and I obviously like Dragonfly, as we all do. So this is one of my top picks this week, is this pulse rifle. Also, it's an arc pulse, which, if you're doing some sort of dungeon or master lost sector or something like that, and you need an arc weapon, this is pretty good, so I would pick this up. Grid Skipper, I feel like we get this every week, and it's usually not very good. This week is no exception. And Sojourner's Tale, I like this one. Tunnel Vision, not the best for PvE use, for PvP use, but for PvE it's quite good. An opening shot is always good on shotgun, so I quite like this one. This would be my other pick for the week. Punching Out, really don't like this roll. I love sidearms, but I don't like the roll for this weapon, so I would skip it. Shattered Cipher, Heating Up and Surrounded are both pretty good perks on a machine gun, but this definitely isn't the best roll we've seen Xur sell, so pick it up if you need it, but it's definitely not anything to write home about. And then finally, Stars in Shadow. This one's got Field Prep, which I like, Thresh, which I don't, One Quiet Moment, which is useless. So if you're going to buy a pulse rifle this week, I would probably much more suggest you get the GN7. And moving on to armor, we're not going to be looking at Titan or Warlock armor this week because they got skunked. They basically have nothing good worth looking at, unfortunately. However, the Hunters do have some good options. Those options are not the gloves or the chest piece, which both have 60. This is the sort of stuff we saw on Titans and Warlocks this week, which is why I'm not going to be going over it because it's just so bad. But the helmet and boots, 64 each. The helmet I'm less crazy about. There's nothing super spiky about it. And, it's just overall, it's okay. 64, you might be able to pick this up. Does some good stuff. It's got high resilience, high strength. The boots, though, or sorry, I guess I had the opposite way. The boots are sort of the same thing, which is they've got a couple that they've got middling stats in, but nothing spiky. So although these are kind of high rolls overall, 64 is pretty good for legendaries that go up to 66, but it's none of these are super spiky. So maybe the helmet is slightly more spiky with 19 and 18, but usually I'm looking for something that's over 20. Some of them I've even seen go up to 30, which is really, really crazy. But if you're looking for some decent, well-rounded legendaries, the hunters got that this week. So that's great. That's everything Xur is selling. Also, I just want to say, Telesto. 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 Anyway, that's all this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Where is Telesto. We'll be back next week to look at a Telesto and buy Telesto. And for everything else related to Destiny or Telesto, stick with IGN.